Hello, and welcome to the Things I Want My Daughters to Know podcast, the podcast redefining women's health, one unfiltered conversation at a time. I'm your host, Jacqueline Rose, and every week I'll sit down with leading women's health experts and real women to share their lived experiences, bust health myths, challenge outdated and uninformed narratives, and explore what's really possible for women. We'll talk about periods, fertility, menopause, hormones, aging, and everything in between. This podcast is for every woman who ever felt confused, dismissed, or left out of the conversation about her own health. It is a space to celebrate women, break the silence, and open up conversations between mothers, daughters, sisters, and friends. Please hit the follow or subscribe button so you don't miss an episode, and share this podcast with your daughters, family, and friends. Let's get on with the episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Things I Want My Daughters to Know podcast. Today is going to be a really exciting conversation. I am super excited about the two guests we have. I know we're going to go down lots of different rabbit holes, and we're going to be talking about things that you probably have never heard before. So stay tuned. Maybe you want a pen and a paper with you to write notes down. There are going to be plenty of show notes and plenty of links in the show notes, but I know that we're going to be talking about really important stuff today. So welcome. I have two guests. There's only, I think, been one other episode that I've had two guests. So welcome, Brenda and Alicia. I'm so happy to have you here. Tell us who you are, what you do, and we're going to get straight into it.
Okay.
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Jacqueline. It's an honor to be here in your podcast, definitely. I love the name of your podcast because I also have two daughters. Brenda has two daughters, so we know exactly what you're talking about. So let me introduce myself. My name is Alicia Mazari-Andersen. I was born and raised in Mexico, and I moved to Canada almost 40 years ago. And through my pathway, I'm a biologist for training. I have a PhD in botany. And I became a holistic nutritionist in 2010. And that's when I met this beautiful lady that she's going to introduce herself. And becoming a holistic nutritionist changed my perspective of health overall. I started changing my own way of eating. I started changing my family's way of eating and stuff like that. We started there as a beginning. But then being able to merge my knowledge of biology and having a university instructor over 30 years, it's been really beautiful trend to be able to put it together with the holistic point of view of nutrition.
Yeah.
So that's me.
Well, welcome, Brenda. Tell us who you are.
Thank you. I'm Brenda Wollenberg. I was not born in Mexico City, although I really love when Alicia cooks supper for me because it's really good food. I actually was initially trained as a social worker and worked in that field for a lot of years, and was a sick social worker, which started me off on this trajectory, thyroid, hormone issues, insomnia, anxiety, you name it. And so got healthy through working with an herbalist. And then when our youngest, we have five as well, Jacqueline, 3 boys and 2 girls. When our youngest went back to kindergarten, I went back to school and became a holistic nutritionist. And that merging that Alicia's talking about of the social work and the nutrition has been so fun to just do, looking at everything that is mental related with physical related. So yeah, that's been an amazing thing. And I'm just going to go ask my husband to stop speaking quite so loudly. So
well, I can't hear it, but go with pleasure. So I guess
Jacqueline, yes. Let me just add what we have been working together. We met in 2010. The first day we met, we were chatting in our living room for 5 hours. Anyway, this whole journey has taken us to be authors, and we have a series of books on Amazon called Epigenetic Roadmap. Our last book is Epigenetic Roadmap to Menopause Health. That's why I changed my background so you can see it, which comes with a manual. And of course, it had to be translated to Spanish, so it's bilingual, English, Spanish.
So I think I want to start there because you're both coming from a holistic nutrition space. You're both coming from a strong biology background, but really the work that you've done is about genetics, epigenetics. So before we sort of take the conversation further, I really want to start at the beginning of what that means for you and what we as women need to know about genetics, our genetic makeup, and this new-ish phrase called epigenetics. Because I think classically what we know and believe is you are what your genes are. If, God forbid, your mother had breast cancer, you've got the genes for breast cancer, and the chance of you developing it, are very high. But there are lots of other things, it's not just about genetic, eye color and things like that. Our biology, we always thought, is passed down through our genetics. So whatever our parents have, grandparents have, aunts and uncles have, we're going to get it also. So explain to me, sort of unpack that narrative, which I know is not really the truth.
So I'm going to start, even though the biologist should start, because Alicia dragged me into this 8 years ago when she messaged me and said, Brenda, we need to go to this epigenetic training. And I was like, what the heck is epigenetics? And at that point, that's where I learned that epi is the Greek or Latin word for over and above, and it means over and above genetics. It means nurture can almost always trump nature. We have a great ability to influence the way our genes express themselves. And I'll let Alicia take it from there and explain how I sat stunned through that whole day workshop.
So yes, absolutely. We're born with genes. We got half our genes came from mom, half our genes came from dad. They will never change. We have our genetics. Okay. There's millions, trillions of genes in our genetic makeup. They all have a function. But when we think about genetics, and we a lot of people, we just basically have like, oh, I have to put you an example. I have the BRCA gene. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have breast cancer. Well, that's not the case. Think about this. Think about, for example, a forest fire. A BRCA gene will be a forest fire gene, okay, where it's impossible to get rid of a forest fire.
Yeah.
We don't work with those. We actually work with 70 markers that are basically your fireplace. How do you light a fireplace? You're going to need a match. You're going to need some Kindle. You might need some newspaper, that type of thing. Imagine taking care of your campfire before it becomes a forest fire.
Right.
And yes, we can turn off those genes that can be forest fires by working at a level in which you can actually change the environment, because these 70 genes we work with, basically we change the environment. That's the epigenetics. We're changing the environment for these genes to express in a better way or in a healthier way. That way, you will never, ever. The other day, somebody was asking me, like, so what is this for you? I'm like, well, this is my life insurance. I have to make sure, like, I don't have forest fires in my life. That's it.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. I hope that analogy was helpful.
Yeah. So I think the way that I've understood it is we have our genes. They exist in us. There's nothing we can do about them. But how they are expressed or how they are switched on, that is very much in our control. And I think that is a totally different way of understanding our susceptibility or our the expectations of how we are going to, what diseases and illnesses we're going to have. That totally changes the whole conversation.
Mm-hmm. One of the analogies, along with the campfire analogy that we like to use, is of the basically the electrical panel in your garage or your basement or whatever. And if you think about that electrical panel as the genes you're born with, and they're switched either one way, say variant, they're switched the other way, normal, which is the scientific terms, not ours, or they're stuck in the middle as heterozygous. Those can be influenced by power surges. And that could be a power surge like a traumatic upbringing. You could have had physical or sexual abuse. You could have been bullied in school. And wham, you get a power surge that causes even really normal, healthy genes that would be expressing themselves in a beneficial way to be shut down, to actually act as if they were, the variant. Likewise, though, you can have a power surge that was a loving family or a close friend relationship, a mentoring teacher, healthy nutrition, getting to bed on time. And even then, the variant genes are damped down. They are not allowed to express what they might be genetically wired for because of the influences. So we have an electrical panel that doesn't change in name, but can absolutely change, as you mentioned, in expression.
So what you are saying, when we really understand it, and I want you to sort of get a little bit more specific and practical, it's actually extremely, extremely powerful and totally changes the way we understand our health and really the way that our conventional Western healthcare system treats health and treats disease.
Oh, yeah. We look at things like a diagnosis or symptoms as information. It's like, okay, this is happening in my body. My skin is breaking out. My gut is angry with me. I'm waking up at 4 every morning. And instead of labeling that as, oh, you have insomnia, oh, you have this, or you have this, we're like, okay, what is our body trying to tell us? What's the language it's using? And how can we get to a root reason of why that expression is happening? And there's, like as Alicia mentioned, 70 different SNPs that we look at in about 11 different categories. So it's like, oh, okay, detective work. Is this a metabolic issue? Is this a detox issue? Is this a neurotransmitter issue? Because we can have the same symptom, but it's coming from one or a combination of different types of things. So it changes how you said, how we look at things, and we become instead, what's the right word, more full of agency towards what our health is doing, as opposed to handing that off to somebody for a prescription, which is nothing wrong with a prescription, but or a treatment, instead of going, let's look at this and come at it maybe from a different angle.
Now, Alicia, you've got the book behind on your screen. So I definitely want to talk about menopause and how this relates to menopause. But before I get there, I want to, I guess, sort of understand women's health in general. A lot of the things that women experience and how you would re-explain it, or how you would sort of approach it from this perspective. So things like fertility issues, or menstrual cycle related issues, things like thyroid dysfunction, which we know so many women are diagnosed with a thyroid dysfunction. We know things like fibromyalgia. We know 80% of the cases of fibromyalgia are in women. So women seem to have a susceptibility or some type of genetic predisposition, let's use that old language, for some of these chronic diseases, chronic illnesses. How would you reframe that? How would you engage with those types of health situations?
Well, we need to take a look at how the environment has changed in the world. Definitely, the higher amount of toxins, at all level, not only like chemicals in the air, like air, water, soil, the amount of pesticides used, the amount of insecticides used, the quality of the water. Like I come from a country where you cannot drink tap water, period. It needs to be purified, it needs to be filtered, et cetera, et cetera. Right. The amount of plastics we are surrounded with. I just met somebody with high inflammation, and you know what it came up to? It came up to the water, the containers of the water she was taking. Like
I just looking at my plastic bottle.
I know, we use glass. Sorry, I basically drink from a glass of water every single day. So anyway, so when you think about the huge amount of things environmentally, and we as women, especially women, we tend to attract a lot of toxins that are soluble in fat. And these toxins is what's happening in the world, where we have, to me, it's a huge topic. I can be here all day talking about estrogen dominance. When you talk about estrogen dominance, like what do we use an insecticide for? to produce estrogen. Why? It's because we don't want the mosquitoes to keep reproducing. Well, all of that accumulates in our body, produces an estrogen dominance. So when you look at estrogen dominance within a menstrual life cycle, for example, and you have more estrogen than progesterone, you will never, ever be able to conceive. Why? Because estrogen is too high. And where is that coming from? A lot of it is coming environmentally. Things like, as you say, PCOS, infertility, very endometriosis, all of these. A lot of these have to do with estrogen dominance, but not always from estrogen dominance. It could be that your detoxification pathways, that you're not clearing it up, that you're not able to get rid of them. It could be your sleep. Like we find people with really low serotonin. Yeah, where's that coming from? Oh, they don't sleep. I mean, we met a woman who slept 4 hours every night for all her life. And she's like, no, I don't need this. I don't need this. I'm just here to support my sister. And now that she sleeps 8 hours, she goes like, what? What a difference in my life to sleep 8 hours versus 4 hours. So this is the complexity of working with all of these areas that Brenda mentioned, because it's an interaction between them. And then we're able to say, oh, guess what? You don't metabolize estrogen to the supportive estrogen. You're metabolizing estrogen to one that is going to cause inflammation, that one will give you, a lot of headaches for your entire life. But it also has to do with your liver. It also has to do with your sleep. It also has to do with your stress. It also has to do like it's very complex. But just to summarize it, our environment has changed so much since the Industrial Revolution, that our bodies are not capable of metabolizing all of these toxins.
Fascinating. Brenda, tell me, I'm listening to everything that Alicia is saying, and I know the environment, how our body is responding to the environment, the toxic overload our body is now under, and how that impacts everything. Tell me, and obviously inflammation in the body is playing a significant role there. Tell me about what the role of stress is here. Stress is one of my favorite topics to talk about, because I think it's one of the most misunderstood topics in health. So tell me how you see stress and what stress is doing to us as a piece of this puzzle of the epigenetic story.
Absolutely. You're making me laugh, and Alicia laugh as well, because when we write together, she's forever saying, Brenda, the calm chapter is too long. You can't put that much information in. And I'm like, I'm a social worker. I can write as long a calm chapter as I want. So anyways, so stress. When Alicia was talking about the environment, I was thinking, as a mother and now a grandmother, and woman who had two parents, pass on, and that amount of stress that women carry in the environment. And even though, like, I have an amazing partner, amazing husband, we shared everything as we grow up, raise the children, etc. There environmentally is a mental and emotional toll that women carry that we still have not figured out how to share that with partners or whatever. Okay.
I agree.
So we carry an immense amount of stress. When you look at that genetically, what has been fascinating to me in the last 8 years to understand, because of course in social work, you're trained in things like cognitive behavioral management, you learn all these different tools that you're teaching your clients as to how to reduce stress, but I never understood at a foundational level where that was coming from. Oh my goodness, you don't produce enough dopamine. You don't have enough dopamine receptors. It's not being transported to the part of the brain where it needs to go. That is leading to a constant dopamine seeking behavior because you have to have that. So we've got that component that we can, look at. But then we also have short-term and long-term stress genes that I think was one of the biggest awakenings for both Alicia and I has been the understanding of why some people stay so dang stuck in sympathetic mode, fight or flight mode, and have so much trouble moving into parasympathetic rest and
Yeah.
recuperative mode.
Yeah.
We know that we live in a stressful environment, but some people seem to just have an easier time of turning it off and just going and
Yeah.
chilling. Okay. So
Yeah.
the biggest eye opener has been a number of genes that keep people stuck in the HPA axis, hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal glands, continuing firing out the message to increase cortisol levels. And it doesn't function the way it's supposed to as a negative feedback loop that over the course of the day says, tone it down, tone it down, tone it down. I am one of those people. And it's like when I remember the aha moment in a training session, and I went, oh my goodness, my FKBP5 gene, which is the one that regulates that negative feedback loop, it is wearing noise canceling headset, which says, I'm not listening. And I just fire cortisol all day. So those kind of tools, understanding the contributing factors to stress that are coming externally, so we can do some things about that, but then also knowing how we're wired. So we can go, like I could have written 80 books on stress management tools. I knew every single one of them, and they would work for about 5 minutes. And then something would happen, a kid would text, a client would email, and I'm bam, ready to run with the antelope and the cheetah to protect myself. Well, that takes a massive stroll, because that cortisol can impact up to 90% of your genes and cause them to operate as if they are in the more detrimental position, even if they're not. So you are absolutely right.
And just adding on to that, in the old language, you would probably be told, or you would say, that's my genetic makeup. That's how I'm wired. I can't do anything about it. I'll try all the stress management stuff, but I'm just one of those wired people. Maybe I need to be put on medication. Maybe I need some antidepressants or some like downers or some coping, pharmaceutical ways to manage that.
Right.
How do you now reframe that with the language that we're talking about?
Oh, we're like, yes, keep all the tools, but we want to give you a dietary intake, and one supplement in particular that was a compound that was developed in France a number of years ago called Lactium, which is, after 8 years of training, still the only compound that we are aware of that will actually reset that HPA axis. Oh my goodness, Jacqueline, like I am the most zen I have ever been in my life. Wow. And so to know that a simple compound can actually get that back to where you are getting that mechanism. So yes, we would do lifestyle, we would do dietary shift, because things like excess sugar and refined grains are going to play a role in that. We want to make sure you have enough, you're producing enough of the elements that can even make dopamine and help with that. But then ultimately, we also use a supplement for a certain amount of time to help get that back. So yeah, there's no reason why anyone needs to live ongoingly in fight or flight. Yeah.
Right.
So, and let me add something to that point, the HPA axis. So hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenals. There's two other biochemical pathways. Also hypothalamus, pituitary, but one of them goes to the gonads, to testes and to ovaries. Yes. The other one goes HPT, hypothalamus, pituitary, thyroid. So because this stress shares 2/3 of these pathways with your thyroid and your gonads, the best place to start is basically deal with the stress. You reduce the stress, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, my cycles are getting nicer now, and they're getting more normal. Oh, my thyroid, they were telling me I have thyroid issues. My thyroid is starting to work better. So this is the important thing about stress. It's like, that's a huge topic. We can be here all day talking about it.
I know. I want to talk about all of the HPA, and the HPT and all those things, but I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. What I do want to ask you is, how do you identify, like, is it a blood test? How are you identifying sort of the epigenetics, or rather the genetics that need to be turned on or turned off? Like how you, sort of, working with clients, or, how does it work actually in the real world with women who are, we're going to talk about women, with women who are struggling? What are the identifiers? How are you tracking this? How are you, finding these triggers, these genes that maybe are activated and need to be deactivated? Sort of what's the next step from taking it from a theory place to a very practical place of actually working with women and supporting them?
So you need the DNA. We need raw DNA data to run through the software that we're trained in using. And currently, the two best ways that happens are through the big company, 23andMe. Okay, a lot of people have that. They got the data done because they wanted to find their long lost relative in some place. Okay.
Yeah.
So we can use that data, that raw DNA you download from that if you've already got that done or you get it. Some people are concerned about the security and the breaches and the selling of their data. So there's a Canadian company called DNA Allure that we really like. They ship anywhere in the world that FedEx does. 23andMe is a spit test. DNA Allure is a swab, and they don't keep your data. They don't sell it. So those are the two companies that we can get a genome file, it's called, and upload it to the software that we use. So people will come typically with a set of symptoms. And we also work with people that don't have their DNA tested, because just, we have learned a lot in the last 8 years, and we can look at symptomatology. Nutritionists don't diagnose and treat, but we do look at symptomatology and say, this seems to be imbalanced. Here's some suggestion. It could be this, it could be this, but let's do some educated trial and error. With genetics, it's precision, isn't it, Alicia? It's like, bam. Go ahead,
and
Alicia.
It's got to be, and it's got to be through those companies. You can't use just regular blood markers or things like that.
Yeah.
No, and the reason for that is because, as Brenda mentioned, we use the software from our mentor, Dr. Penny Kendall Reid in Ontario. And that gives us, I'm a very visual person. So the first time I got my report, I read it on like 60 pages, and I read it twice. I was fascinated. And I'm like, how on earth does Dr. Penny want somebody to understand this? This is just way too complex.
Yeah.
So I put it in color, and I created a one-page, basically, map. And once I have a map in front of me, like some people's like, Alicia, I have a question. I'm like, wait till I open your map, then we can talk.
Well, then we can talk.
Then we're able, we have done about 400 of them, Brenda, maybe by now.
Wow.
We're really good at just taking the map and pinpointing about where to start.
Yeah.
And again, it's not a miracle. It takes time. It takes at least 8 weeks to reset your genes. Yeah. And it's a matter of changing the mentality. And people go, like, the other day somebody asked me, do you guarantee your results? I'm like, sorry, I can't, because I'm not doing the work. It's you. Do you guarantee your results?
Yeah.
But having a map and knowing exactly where you're going, having a blueprint and knowing exactly what to work on makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
In the extensive number of cases of roadmaps that you've seen, and are you seeing anything, sort of some common denominators with women? Are you seeing common things that you didn't expect, or that things that you sort of did expect that have been confirmed? Sort of what are some of the things that you've seen come up time and time again for women?
I would say, and I shouldn't be surprised at this point, okay? But the amount of times that it is a detoxification issue and a neurotransmitter issue. Like, how many times women come, they want to lose weight. That's like classic. Like, I'm like, you have so many issues, and your number one issue is you want to lose weight.
Yeah.
But that's just how we're wired. Unfortunately, the world has conditioned us somewhat that way. But almost always, if you can tackle those two areas, it's like the opposite of falling down dominoes. It's like coming back up dominoes. And I would say probably third, Alicia, inflammation, that would be the trifecta that we see over and over again, creating so many issues. Anything else that has surprised you, Alicia?
Yeah, and there's hormones, of course, when you talk
Of
about
course, of
menopause.
course.
We're gonna get onto that. Don't worry, we're gonna talk
Okay.
about that.
So hormones.
Tell me, hormones and
Yeah, like in general, hormones, sleep is a big one.
Oh yeah.
And it's not just looking at like we categorize the genes that we work with in 70 categories, but it's not just, oh, it's one or the other, it's their interactions. That is what's important. I cannot separate the way you metabolize estrogen and testosterone, for example, from liver detox, because that's what the liver does, right?
Yes.
It metabolizes hormones. So, and I cannot change stress and separate stress from sleep. No, and serotonin, and then your macronutrients and the way we optimize like your food intake. It's phenomenal. It is phenomenal. Just to give you an example, Brenda and I, we've gone out away sometimes to take some marketing programs and courses and stuff like that. And in the morning, Brenda's like, "Oh, I'm okay with a green smoothie," and I'm like, "No way, no way! I need my egg. I need my protein in the morning." When we looked at the genetics, it totally made sense.
Right. Yeah.
I am geared to eat 3 times a day with 5 to 6 hours between meals. Brenda can easily do an intermittent fasting where her feeding window is 8 hours. Yeah. So she's okay in the morning with the smoothie. I can't. I need my protein first thing in the morning.
Yeah. And when I'm with Brenda. I'm falling in line with Brenda. I don't need to eat again. And this is also really interesting. I don't need to eat till like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. For me, if I eat in the morning, it sets me off wrong for the whole day. But there are some people who need to eat in the morning because if they don't, they get lightheaded, so you sort of think, okay, it's different personalities, different characteristics. But what you're saying, it's actually our genetic makeup of how we are wired.
Yes, like Alicia mentioned 70 genes, they fall into 11 categories, and one of them is metabolism. We're looking at 5 genes in there. How does that impact your leptin, your ghrelin, your adiponectin? And we can tell you need an 8-hour feeding window. We can say you need 3 meals, minimum 5 hours apart. And people are like, how can you tell that? And we're like, that's what your genes want, the way these 3 hormones interact. We can say you are a candidate for, anywhere between 0.8 to 1.2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. And like, we can tell you like exactly the amount of protein that your body is destined to function on. We can say, you know what? You're not a great, carbohydrates are not your friend. You may need them at 1 of your 3 meals a day, or you need them at 2 or 3 meals and relative to the size of your protein. So we are, it's saturated fat has been so vilified and it is so important. We can tell you need 22 grams a day, you need 30, you need 40, you need 50 even. And so people have a guideline for the rest of their life about how their body would be optimally fueled. So that's amazing. That takes such a load of stress off people. Oh, maybe I should try keto. Oh, maybe I should do paleo. Oh, maybe I should try intermittent fasting. Oh, no, for the rest of my life, I can just eat like this. I don't have to read another book on diet, So it's good.
What you're really talking about here is a super personalized approach to health. And I know that we are going in that, with the rise of functional medicine, and we are going in a more personalized approach to health. And I think also with now AI in the health field, it's going to change again. But you're talking about like no 2 clients are going to come away with the same recommendations, the same roadmap of how to stay healthy, well, and disease-free. Like it's something. So I guess as many people as there are in the world is as many roadmaps as there are going to be for each person.
Yes. Oh yeah. We have whole binders of them, and and they're all different per person. And when we do groups, it's really fun because people are like, oh, mine's like that. Oh yeah, but this is mine. And they're able to just really understand. We think it's kind of cool because you grow an appreciation, I think, of the really unique way that you've been made. Like it's pretty amazing. Yeah.
but it also probably can be very overwhelming and confusing. And it's understandable why the Western healthcare system just is never going to meet these needs.
Yeah. Absolutely. No. I mean, if you go see a doctor and in 15 minutes you're supposed to come out with a solution, that's not it. Understanding for Brenda and I, being educators, that's what we are. We're educators. We educate you. We don't want you to stay with us forever. No. We want you to understand yourself from a perspective you've never known yourself before. And then take a look at who you are from that perspective. Just to put you an example, we wrote another book about ADHD, and we used two people to compare, and one of them is me. I have ADHD, but and then thank goodness Brenda's daughter agreed to be the other person. We have completely different genetic makeup. I am the type of person that I have so much dopamine. You want it, I'll give it to you. I have too many. I can be the cheerleader, blah 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 blah. Whereas other people are looking for dopamine everywhere because they're breaking it down, right? Now, having too much dopamine is fun. I'm not telling you not, but it comes with a price. What is that price? I don't break down adrenaline. And so my stress level is so high so when I started taking this one supplement that Brenda mentioned that contains lactium, I even phoned Brenda one morning after 3.5 weeks. I'm like, I reset my genes. I'm so excited. I reset my genes. This is amazing. It's like, why didn't anybody tell me before that this is what calm should feel like? I never, ever experienced that before.
Yeah.
And so this is the important part.
Yeah, I so want to get onto hormones and menopause, but I have so many more questions because I'm assuming the pharmaceutical companies don't like you guys very much, because the pharmaceutical companies want to pump out drugs that can be used across the board by thousands of people. I'm thinking of antidepressants, anti-anxiety. I'm just thinking about like the mental health drugs. Forget about the statins and the cholesterol drugs and the blood pressure drugs, but pharmaceutical companies rely on the fact that they can mass produce drugs that are going to work for everyone. And we know, especially in the mental health space, that finding the right drug is an art, not a science. But we've been told drugs is the way to go. It's going to cure you. You give the same drugs to all your population, and in theory you should get the same result. And we know that doesn't happen. But you really are going against the whole way that the system has been created.
Oh, yeah.
Well, go ahead, Brenda.
I was just going to say, I did we call them Nourish Your DNA reviews, okay? I did one of these a number of months ago with a functional medicine doctor, and he said to me, okay, this is first off mind-blowing. Like, I cannot believe you read my mail on all of these things. But what it exemplified is, he said, you just spent an hour and 15 minutes with me, because our pricing includes not just handing you this, which is now a 130-page document as of this year, handing it to you. We actually spend that hour with you going over it. And he said, nobody does that. Like if I send my patients, he was saying, for a Dutch test or whatever, they just get something in the mail. Nobody breaks it down with them or helps them. And so I said, well, we're actually trying to work ourselves out of a job. We're trying to teach people how to read this so that when something else comes up, another symptom or whatever, they can go back to this document and figure this out. So we're trying to educate, not just, like you said, we can't prescribe anyways, but do these 2 supplements and eat this one thing. No, we want you to understand this. So yes, we're kind of swimming upstream, I think would be a good analogy. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you look, for example, at a chapter there's 2 important chapters in our books. One, in the ADHD book, there's a chapter about medications, about why some medications will work for somebody and why some won't. I am the type of person where medication would have been detrimental to me. Whereas, for example, medication for Brenda's daughter works, because we can explain that at the genetic level.
Yeah.
Now, there's another chapter very dear to our hearts, and I know you want to get into this about HRT within our menopause book.
Yes.
Why is it that we want to give people hormones? It doesn't matter if they're bioidentical or not. Bioidentical, actually, it's harder to figure out what they're giving you because bioidentical is just a name. Okay.
Okay.
There's really not easy to prescribe bioidentical hormones.
Yeah.
So HRT might be for somebody, yes, if you can metabolize estrogen to the healthy estrogen and you're really having a hard time, yes, they can give you hormones. Eventually, and there's a time limit, but eventually, you know what? You're going to be weaned off those anyway. You cannot be on those for the rest of your life. So I don't know, menopause might come up 10 years later if you want to feel it that way.
Yeah.
However, for some people that cannot metabolize estrogen to the protective estrogen, then they should never ever be on HRT. We have actually a client who she actually asked her doctor that she wanted HRT because she was having a hard time. And when she saw her genetics, she goes like, oops, this is not the right place for me.
Place for me, yeah.
There's many other things you can do instead of just going for the pill for HRT.
Okay, so you've led me directly into the conversation and you've got that big book behind you. So let's bring this conversation very specifically to the midlife women, the perimenopausal, menopausal women. And what we know, sort of maybe let's, get a couple of things about what we know, and then let me ask you sort of where the epigenetics is playing a role. So we know that perimenopause, menopause is a natural, normal, hormonally fluctuating time. It is a biological stage in a woman's life cycle. So we know the body was designed to have this experience. But we also know that there are some women who experience the stage of life very, very difficultly. They have a lot of symptoms. There are other women who really navigate this stage of life fairly easily. We know that the very loud menopause conversation now is only talking about symptoms, and it's only about, menopause equals symptoms equals HRT. There is very little conversation about how else you could navigate this stage of life. So talk to me about the role that epigenetics is playing when there is real biological fluctuations. We know that our hormones are fluctuating. Whether you have symptoms or not, I think is at the moment irrelevant to the conversation, because how does this conversation now translate to when there is actual real turmoil, biological turmoil going on in a woman's body, where she is actually physically, biologically changing into her postmenopausal self?
I think the biggest thing that I see women like you doing, educators in this field, is number one, normalizing this. And it's not like we've lost our value in life. It's not like we're coming to this stage where we're useless and whatever. I think there's a huge surge to go back to what some cultures, particularly some indigenous cultures, have, which is there's an elevation of the wisdom that comes at this age, the life experiences that inform how, I am a better woman than I was at 25. Let me just say, okay. Way calmer, way more balanced, way more able to whatever. So anyways, so that's number one that we see. Number two, there are tendencies to have certain experiences at this age because of the hormonal fluctuations. But when we look at a all-in-one map, we can say, do you want some suggestions on how to minimize some of these symptoms that you're feeling, whether it's the hot flashes, the brain fog, the fatigue, the weight gain, whatever it is? Most women say yes. And we can say, it looks like you're predominantly having this issue because of your detoxification here. Okay. I had a client that came about a year and a half ago to me, had been in excruciating hot flashes for like 5 years, like barely functioning.
Wow.
Didn't want to do HRT. And when we looked at her genetics, it's probably a good thing that she had chosen not to. But she and her husband traveled a lot. And I got an email from her 4 or 5 months later that just said, oh my goodness, I did not like, I barely had any hot flashes. If they come, they're so brief and they last so short and they're so little intensity, simply by making some dietary changes, because she'd been working out religiously and not able to shed that kind of menopause, belly kind of a thing, because she was eating the wrong fuel mix for her body, doing actually the wrong workouts for her body, which we are also able to tell people, but then added in some supplement support that helped manage those symptoms in a way that worked for her. So we're all for, yes, it's an amazing stage of life, but we're also all for, let's go through it with as minimal grief as possible. And both of us had extremely excellent menopause seasons before we knew, for me personally, before I knew about epigenetics, because I'm going to be 70 this year. And it was like, we realized we accidentally reset genes with the lifestyle choices that we had put in place. So we're like, oh man, now instead of accidentally helping people do it, let's precisely help them do it. So
yeah, amazing. And I just want to sort of understand that the hormonal fluctuations or these changes, like these deep, profound changes that women are going through, it doesn't matter sort of what the baseline genetics are, in terms of, like, it's not changing the genes, it's not changing the genetic makeup, it's just changing the external of sort of what else is going on. Because I'm thinking, let's say, if, let's say, a 16-year-old girl came to you and did the genetic mapping, by the time she comes to, let's say, 46, has something changed biologically in her body, or is that genetic map still relevant for her?
Well, you were born with your genes, you will die with your genes. Your genes don't change. That test, you only need to do it once. It's not like a blood test. Okay, let me explain the difference between these and a blood test. Your genes are expressed every single day, 24/7. You were born with them, they will never change. If you go for a blood test to check your estrogen levels, for example, it's what's happening in your body in that second. That's it.
Correct.
When you go check your thyroid, they only check in the morning. Of course, everybody's going to have their TSH high. It's normal to have a TSH high in the morning. Later on, they will bind to receptors. Later on, it's metabolized to T4. T4 binds to receptors, then metabolized to T3. T3 is bind to receptors. At what time are they taking your blood test? It's your results. So a blood test, sometimes people send me, can I send you my blood test? I'm like, sure enough. What time did you take it? What is happening in your life? Did you have a stressful day the day before? Like, I need to look at everything. Whereas you only need to do one genetic test, because these genes will never change. The only thing is their expression can change, and that's the reason why we use 70 markers. Because when you change the environment, you will get them to, as Brenda mentioned, you will get them to express in a better way.
Right.
And my two daughters have their genetics tested, and I am so looking forward to, and they're young, obviously they're 30, 33, but I'm looking forward to them going through their pregnancy years, their perimenopause to menopause, because we will be able to continue to walk this out. So it should move as smoothly as possible. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. It's really unbelievable what you're talking about. So is there anything, sort of any common denominators around the strategies and the protocols that you're recommending? Is there any common denominators that you are looking at across the board? Even though we know this is personalized, this is very specific, are there some generalities that most people need to be paying attention to this? To reset their genes?
We actually call them our no matter what's, or NMWs, okay? And for sure, we want people to regulate their sleep. Like, sleep is such an important thing. So no matter where you are on the map, we'll be talking about getting light on your face in the morning, off screens, an hour before bed, trying to go to bed at the same time, even on the weekend. So that will be a given. We will automatically be talking stress management techniques, whatever those might be. And we will automatically be talking about, we have 3 food foundations and 5 food, simple tips. So whole food, as close as possible to original form, Don't become, into food fanaticism. So yes, those we have some no matter what's that even when
Right.
people don't have genetics tested, we're like, get this, let's work on these. These will produce a benefit. Any other no matter what's that we use, Alicia? My brain
Yeah,
is,
there's of course, sleep,
yep,
diet,
sleep, diet.
detoxification, and stress.
Yeah, yeah.
Those
So
are the
Detoxification.
no matter what. In
yeah,
short, those
Yeah.
four are the
yeah.
no matter what. Whatever you do, whatever you're doing in your life, those are four areas
Yeah.
that you really, really need to work on.
When
And
you're
nothing to
talking
do
about
with that.
detoxification, are you specifically looking at liver function or just exposure to toxins?
Well, you want to reduce exposure to toxins,
Yeah,
of course, to start
Yeah.
with, to avoid putting more fire into your poor liver.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
yes, we look at phase one and phase two detox.
yeah.
And because we're all different, some people might be really sluggish about, phase two. Some people might be very fast at phase one. And I had somebody that was so
Right.
fast at phase one that she had so many toxins because she couldn't metabolize them in phase two, or
Right.
the opposite, like. And phase one is amazing because it gives us like little things like, oh, I should be drinking coffee. Oh, I should have mint. Oh, I shouldn't be taking milk thistle. Oh, curcumin
And
is anti-inflammatory
all
for
of
me.
that comes out from the gene mapping.
Yeah. I had a
Yeah.
person from Argentina, lives here in Vancouver, and we're the same age, and she kept telling me, oh, how do you do that? In the morning I get up and I'm in pain. I cannot even go to the washroom. And you know what it was? Curcumin for her was inflammatory, but the naturopath had given her tons of curcumin. We got rid of the
Wow.
curcumin. Within 2 weeks, she goes like, "Whoa, was that it?" I'm like, "It's in your genes. What can I
Yeah.
say?"
That's not because we know curcumin is meant to be anti-inflammatory. That is part of the anti-inflammatory diet.
Not for everybody. It's
Yeah,
not for
because
everybody.
it depends what on your phase one liver. Is it fast or
Depends
is
on
it
your
slow?
genetics.
Are you trying to support it and increase it, or are you trying to reduce it? That
Wow.
is going to
Wow.
impact what you take. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So
Tell me what else you wanted to share about menopause, specifically as part of this conversation. I know we sort of talked a little bit about HRT. I guess maybe I want to ask specifically about this narrative now that is now being told to women that they need to take HRT not only for symptom treatment, but for bones, brain, and heart health as we age. And without HRT, you're doing yourself a disservice. You're taking a huge risk because you're putting, your life on the line of potentially osteoporosis, dementia, and increased heart attacks. And we know that
yeah,
women have a higher susceptibility for those conditions. So
mhm.
how is sort of your approach tying in with that narrative that is now being really shared?
Over to the scientist. I'll start with you, Alicia.
Okay, we need to understand that we always think about hormones as a culprit for everything, and it's not. They're not. Yeah, sure
Yeah.
enough, we produce hormones 24/7. Sure enough, when we get menopause, estrogen levels will drop, progesterone levels will drop. We're looking more into what happens behind those scenes, like, oh, my FSH is high, my LH high, my testosterone is high, whatever, right? However, we need to understand that we're holistic. It's not just hormones. We need to think about the whole body, the
Yeah.
whole body,
Yeah.
mind, body, spirit. We need to think about how can we nourish the body to be able to, we'll be able to definitely prevent high blood pressure, heart attacks, osteoporosis, this whole thing. But the thing is, you need to understand yourself from this perspective of holistic.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
just blame the hormones. Don't just blame the way your liver detoxifies. Don't just blame the environment. Do something about it. Clean up. Start by cleaning up your house. Start by cleaning up your environment. Start by consuming real food, like Brenda mentioned. Start with the little things. Start with movement every single day, for goodness sakes. We don't move. We're sitting here all day long, and then we go to sleep. Move. Like there is so much behind the scenes. It's not just, don't just think about hormones as a culprit.
Yeah.
Brenda,
Yeah.
you want to add
Well,
anything to that?
and we address a lot of that actually in the book, even the osteoporosis issue. We look at everything from, is this creating stronger bones? Is it creating a stronger, outline of our bones? And we're losing flexibility. Like there are a lot of issues that we see, and we're like you, we're not anti-HRT. We gave good guidelines in the book around when women might want to consider it, how to talk to their doctors about it, etc. But the whole thing around it being touted as the be all end all, so all of these issues with one pill or one patch or one whatever, it's not accurate. It's I feel like it's another case of women being gaslighted, might be the wrong word, but it's like we're whitewashed, with this HRT paint that is going to fix everything. And we need to have a realistic understanding of what it can and can't do. And I think that can only be paired properly with an understanding of other tools that you can use. Because if we say, oh, maybe HRT isn't for you, then it can be very discouraging. It's, I'm going to have these issues. And we get to say, oh, but look what's available to you to take control of in your life and be able to have extremely beneficial responses without, in your instance, some of the downsides of HRT. So trying to.
If also, for example, someone is potentially, I think in general as women, we are very, very worried about dementia, Alzheimer's. It's so prevalent. But in the genetic mapping, can you should be able to see if someone has the gene for that, if they need to pay attention to that, if they need to maybe, I'm not talking about HRT, but I'm talking about taking preventative measures. If they see that maybe they do have the gene for increased risk of heart attack, increased risk of osteoporosis, increased risk of any of the aging diseases, is that something that you are looking at also?
So we actually don't look at, as Alicia mentioned, end game genes, BRCA, Alzheimer's, the ones that 23andMe will tell you that you're prone to, because in theory, you've got that gene, absolutely. But we are instead looking always at trigger genes. Both Alicia and I, we have 3 of our 4 parents that died with either Alzheimer's or dementia. Okay. So we could live our lives terrified that we may end up with Alzheimer's disease. Instead, we recognize that's an end stage gene. And actually, I don't even have that one at 23andMe. I don't have the gene for early onset Alzheimer's. But I look at my parents' lifestyles, the stress that they were under. I look at the diet early on, the different things, and I'm like, okay, I am taking care of trigger genes to hopefully prevent that happening. And that, Alicia, do you want to add anything to that?
So it's not like you're looking into a crystal ball and saying, like, this is what's going to happen. Because I think maybe there is a bit of a fear or an expectation that you're going to, solve, sort of let your client know, sort of, yes, you sort of, the crystal ball future telling of what is going to happen. But that's actually not what you're doing at all. You want to change the expectations.
Yes.
Yeah, change the environment now. Like you're on time. We are on time. I mean, Brenda's 69, I'm 64. We're not in our 30s, but hey, we have changed our environment and we have seen results changing our environment. So why not change the environment and work on that instead of waiting for the forest fire to be turned on? Because we don't want a forest fire. It's very hard to turn off, right?
And you also don't want to live in fear of that. Like you also don't want to live this anxiety-based life that's like, oh my goodness. Like I said around agency earlier, what can I do that fosters the possibility of the best, longest, healthiest life possible?
I'm going to ask you one more question before we end. although I have lots more questions. But I want to ask you about supplements and supplementation. So you've already mentioned a couple, but especially in the menopause space, supplementation and all these sort of, supplement products are really, really big business. I know that I recommend some very essential supplements. Nothing major, magnesium, omega-3s, all the basics, vitamin D, vitamin. But what are your approach around supplements and the role that supplements play for you as part of your protocol?
Alicia.
Well, first of all, you need to understand what is a supplement. A supplement is something that we cannot get in our diet. Yeah. There is a lot behind the supplement quality control. So they need to be supplements that work. Yeah. Now, for example, everybody goes for, I have the MTHFR gene. Sure enough. All I need is folate. Okay, right. No, you don't. You decrease inflammation before you promote that to start with. Don't just jump into taking folate. Supplements that we use are very high quality. We don't use any supplements, period. That's number one. Number two, supplements need to be based on your genetics. Not everyone needs the same supplement. Not everyone needs the same dosages. Not everyone. But when we have a guide, we're able, for example, I produce too much dopamine. I don't break it down. Don't give me tyrosine. Whereas somebody that's breaking it down, give them tyrosine. It's as simple as that. Just just having a map really tells you which supplements will help you. And again, it takes about 8 to 12 weeks to reset your genes. Later on, if you so choose to, then keep taking supplements at a maintenance level. You don't need these high doses of supplements. Not everybody needs, for example, the same omega-3. It depends on the quality control. Depends on so many things. But again, having a map that tells you which supplements, not only which supplements, the dosage, but why you're taking it is what really makes sense to us.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some foundational ones that you mentioned, like almost everyone needs magnesium. Almost everyone could use some vitamin D, especially in the hemisphere that we happen to live in. Okay. So vitamin C, again, many people need that. Zinc, many people need that. So there are some basics that many people need. But then again, if you're looking at neurotransmitters, we'll be giving you very specific around dopamine, serotonin, short-term, long-term stress, and specifically how long to take them and when to drop down the dosage. A lot of people want to take, like milk thistle, for example. They want to help their liver, and we would be able to say, no, you're not a candidate for milk thistle, or yes, you are. So we can give you the ones, and I mean, supplements cost money. So there's no sense taking ones you don't need, okay? And paring that down to even get rid of pill fatigue is amazing. So we want you taking as few as possible to supplement the lifestyle and diet that you are doing.
Yeah. Amazing. There are so many questions I still want to ask you. We probably need to invite you back for another one. The thing that I'm not going to ask you, but I just want to leave because maybe you'll come back, is to talk about mental health. I would love to have a conversation around mental health. That's something that is very personal to me. And I think it has developed into such a massive, big industry. And I would love to hear your thoughts on that. So I'm going to leave that as a teaser. And maybe we'll bring you back because I would really love to talk about that because we know that it is.
Can I interject and say the book that we're currently working on?
Yes.
The book we're currently working on is on brain optimization. So once it's out, maybe you want to have us back. We would love to come back.
Great. Excellent. So when that book comes out, you're invited back to talk about that book. Amazing.
Okay.
Is there anything that I have not asked you sort of that you really want to share before we close? Anything that you just want to I have always my last question I end with, but just anything that we haven't touched on, anything that is really essential that you want to just share before we close?
I just want to encourage women that this is a challenging topic and there's lots of information coming our way. You can do this, okay? You can do this.
Yeah. So I always end my conversations with the question of, this podcast is called The Things I Want My Daughters to Know.
Mm-hmm.
You've both said you have daughters, but even goddaughters, nieces, those next generation of women. What do you want your daughters to know, to take away with, if you know, from all your experience and from everything you've learned? Alicia, you go first.
I would say learn to listen to your body, pay attention to what your body's telling you.
Yeah.
And don't take it for granted. Give your body the tools it needs to be as healthy as possible from whatever age you have. You know, you have your daughters, you know, my daughters are now 29 and 31. And, you know, like, listen to your body. Listen to it. Give the tools you need to be as healthy as possible at every single age.
Yeah. Amazing. Brenda?
And I would echo that with mine, and I would add on top of that to put your oxygen mask on first. Both of my daughters are caregivers, and one's a lawyer, one's a labor and delivery nurse, you know, and it's like, put your oxygen mask on first. Take care of yourself, so that you can do the things that you're called to do down here.
You need to do. Yeah. Amazing. Okay. Wow, this has been fantastic. I know it's a bit revolutionary. I love everything you have said. I know that for many women, it's going to sort of be a little bit different. But tell me, where can people find you? They want to learn more about what you do, how you work. Where can people find you? Where are you hanging out?
So first, thank you. You're an excellent podcast host. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You can find us. Our website is In Balance LM. So In Balance Lifestyle Management, InBalanceLM.com. And right at the top, when you get in there, there's a little thing you can click for a free 20-minute wellness roadmap call. So if you're thinking, this epigenetic stuff, this might be something I'm interested in, have a conversation with us. See if we might be able to help. And our books are on Amazon. You punch in Alicia Mazari-Andersen, and they'll all come up. So there you go.
Amazing. So you have your book on epigenetics for menopause and your book on epigenetics for ADHD.
And we also have a general metabolic health book as well. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Ladies, thank you. This has been really, really fantastic. We're definitely having you back when your next book is launched. Everyone, their contact details and where you can reach them are in the show notes. Go check these women out. They are doing incredibly important work. And this really is the future. I believe, you know, really, this is the future of healthcare. So you are at the cutting edge, and I'm so honored that you were with me today. So thank you. And thank you everyone for listening, and join me again at another episode of the Things I Want My Daughters to Know podcast. We are dropping episodes every week. Write a review, follow, subscribe. You don't want to miss episodes like this. I look forward to seeing you at another episode. Have a great day.